Jealous wife demanded an open marriage, cheated with her ex, stalked me when I found someone new, lied to our daughter, and now wants to close the marriage. I'm a 39-year-old guy and my wife, who's 37, and I have been married for 15 years. We've got 2 kids, a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. About a year and a half ago, my wife approached me about wanting an open marriage. She said she was getting bored with just us and wanted to explore more. I was totally against it at first, because I believe marriage should be between 2 people. When we got married, I'd had 5 sexual partners, but she had only been with me. She made it clear that if we didn't open things up, she was ready to file for divorce. Neither of us wanted that, so I agreed under certain conditions. No one gets brought back to the house, we don't talk about our other partners, the kids and family stay in the dark, everyone gets tested beforehand, and we don't hook up with people we both know. I had a sneaking suspicion that my wife already had someone in mind, and I was right. She went out 24 hours after we agreed and didn't come back until 4 a.m. It was really hard for me to accept, but I wanted to save our marriage. Last May, I met Amber through our daughter's marching band. Amber's divorced and isn't interested in getting married again, but still has needs. So about 5 months after opening our marriage, I started sleeping with Amber. At first it felt like cheating, but it was nice to have something no strings attached. Over time, I got used to the idea that we could satisfy our needs both inside and outside our marriage. It even spiced up our sex life and made us happier. My wife's fling ended in April because of COVID-19. Turns out her guy was in an open marriage without his wife's knowledge, and it became too tricky for them to meet. In May, we organized a Zoom concert or the band kids, and my wife met Amber for the first time. Amber had been open with a few of the other moms, so word got back to my wife that Amber was my partner. My wife then told me I needed to end things with Amber since we both knew her now. I refused because technically we didn't know Amber before, so it didn't break any rules. My wife kept saying she was uncomfortable with me continuing to see Amber and wanted to close our marriage again. I said I was open to that, but only if it stayed closed for good, and if she signed a document waiving spousal support in case of a divorce. She went ballistic and refused to even consider it. My wife is a stay-at-home mom and hasn't worked since we got married. She argued that if I left her for Amber, she'd be left with nothing. I told her I'd be willing to include exceptions, like if I cheated or refused to reopen the marriage. She's not open to discussing any of it and says I should focus on us. Now I'm stuck wondering if I should agree without any stipulations. I know there's no future with Amber since it's just physical, but it feels like I'm blowing up my marriage over something that shouldn't matter. Update 1. This morning I called Amber to ask who she told about us. She denied sharing anything, and I believe her. I checked my wife's Google timeline and discovered she followed me to Amber's house in April, then introduced herself to stir up trouble. I'm at a loss now. Comments. Al Frosty, I think your wife flipped because she doesn't plan on staying with you long term. OP. That crossed my mind too. I don't want to screw her over financially, but how can I trust she won't want to open things back up again down the line? John Miller. Your marriage is already over, good luck. OP. I'm starting to realize that. It sucks, but she's not the same person I married. Lady Magpie. That guy was just cheating on his wife then. OP-Y-EP, and my wife thought it was all above board. I asked my wife if she'd agree to keep our marriage permanently closed and waive support if either of us cheated or wanted to reopen it. She refused to discuss it. Now I don't know what to do. So, here's the scenario. 6 months from now, her outside partner wants to get back together, but she's into someone else and threatens me with divorce again if I don't agree to open the marriage back up. I have no intention of financially screwing her over or anything. I just wanted to see how she'd react if I asked for a guarantee that she wouldn't pull that stunt again. Turns out she wasn't willing to put her money where her mouth is. Now, about Amber. I met her through parents who are involved with my daughter's band. Our daughters aren't super close, they're just in the same band. My wife was never into the band stuff, it's not her scene. But with quarantine and all, She was looking for stuff to do and decided she wanted to help out with the concert. At that point, should I have said, "No, you can't help because my outside partner is a band mom, and I don't want you involved in that circle"? Amber was in my circle, not my wife's, until my wife suddenly decided to get involved with the band a year after I started seeing Amber. To give some context, my wife wanted an open marriage. I was against it, but agreed when she said she was ready to file for divorce. She had a partner within 24 hours while it took me a few months. Her partner and she broke up later, and she started stalking me and introduced herself to my partner to try to force me to end it. When that didn't work, she demanded we close the marriage again. I had conditions she wasn't willing to accept. Now on to the last month, it's been rough. I confronted my wife about the stalking, and she denied it at first until I brought up her location history. She tried to deflect by claiming I invaded her privacy, but I didn't take the bait. Eventually, she admitted she didn't like that I had someone while she didn't, especially a mom from school. I agreed to end things with Amber if she would do counseling, close the marriage up for good, and start looking for a job after the pandemic. She said she's a stay-at-home mom, so I told her we could revisit that after things normalize. We did a few therapy sessions that went well initially. The therapist asked why she followed me and why she felt the need to go outside the marriage. But things took a turn when she admitted her outside partner was a high school ex-boyfriend she regretted not going all the way with. I was pissed and told her it was unacceptable, just like my choice of a mom from school was too close to home for her. I checked into a hotel to cool off because I didn't want the kids to see me like that. When I got home, my daughter was unusually cold to me. She accused me of cheating on mom with a band mom, which she heard from her mom. I showed her my hotel receipt and explained that her mom and I had a fight, and I needed time away to calm down. She cried, and I reassured her that I loved her. Burning up inside, I didn't talk to my wife. Instead, I found the guy's wife on Facebook and let her know about the affair. She appreciated the heads up as she suspected something was up. Later, my wife raged at me for violating therapy confidentiality and ruining the guy's life. She denies telling our daughter about me having a girlfriend, and we haven't spoken since last Thursday. We're supposed to have another counseling session tomorrow, but I'm not sure it's worth it. I keep catching her in lies, and I don't think I can ever trust her again. I know that filing for divorce is the smart choice, but it makes me feel sick. I feel like a failure because I couldn't make the marriage work, and I know that's where it's headed. It feels like I'm going to throw up ever. I try to call an attorney. Thanks for the update, and sorry to hear therapy is only bringing more things to light. Your wife drowning in lies has clearly shattered your trust. I hope she wasn't the one to tell your daughter, but when people are sinking, they'll latch onto anyone to stay afloat. Turning the kids against you isn't a new tactic. You're not a failure just because the marriage has run its course. At this point, it's probably best to contact an attorney no matter how difficult it may be. Do it for yourself, for your kids, even for your wife, so she can hit rock bottom on her own without dragging your lives down with hers. Best of luck, man. You're a resource. Talk to an attorney, and if you're honest with yourself, you'll realize your wife opened the relationship because she was planning on cheating anyway. So, yeah, it's pretty clear your wife is a piece of work. She hated the idea of you having fun while she wasn't, never chipped in around the house, and had zero plans to start. Plus, she lied all the time. Honestly, what makes you think anything is going to change? When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. It was her way or the highway. No room for compromise. Seriously, I think it's time you talked to an attorney, got your finances squared away, and bailed out of that toxic relationship. And oh, Lisa, don't beat yourself up. You didn't fail. Your wife wanted to cheat, but didn't want to label it as cheating. She never expected you to do the same. The fact that she threatened divorce if you didn't comply, extra manipulative, and trying to mess up your relationship with your daughter, that's just the last straw. Personally, I wouldn't see this situation as fixable. Remember, this is all on your wife going off the rails. You hung in there as best as you could, but maybe it's time to let go. Be open with your daughter about everything. The truth is healthier than letting rumors and lies come out eventually. Now on to another wild ride. Here's story 2. So, I finally met my biological dad after 30 years. We bonded on his boat. Then bam! I caught him cheating with my girlfriend at a family dinner. And get this, he got her pregnant while still being married. My girlfriend and I had been together for almost 4 years before it all blew up. We actually met casually through mutual friends at a Halloween haunted house. Since everyone else was coupled up, we ended up hanging out a lot. We hit it off in the beer garden, talked about everything, and by the end of the night we exchanged numbers and started dating. She moved in with me after 1.5 years. Growing up, I never knew my dad. My mom always refused to tell me who he was. The story was, he didn't want me, encouraged my mom to get an abortion, and she raised me alone for 12 years before meeting my stepdad. Even though I asked 1,000,000 times, she wouldn't tell me who he was. Finally, it was my girlfriend who convinced me to find out again. When a cousin passed away from cancer, I got worried about family health history. We approached my mom from that angle, and I also mentioned it would be good to know before having my own kids. That convinced her, and she gave me his name. I reached out, and to my surprise, my dad was receptive. My girlfriend came with me to our first lunch. It was surreal seeing how much I looked like him. It was super emotional, and my girlfriend was my rock through it all. A week later, my dad asked to meet again, wanting to get to know me better. My girlfriend encouraged me, so all 3 of us went fishing on his boat. We drank, talked about his family, and I found out he was married with 3 younger kids. Before the day ended, my dad and girlfriend exchanged numbers to plan a family meetup, as she was the organized one. Fast forward a few weeks, and I hadn't seen him much, but we were texting to keep in touch. My girlfriend told me they were planning a family dinner at his place. I work in construction, and one day, 50 feet in the air, I dropped my phone. It was trashed. I got a new one and transferred everything over, but missed some contacts, including my dad's. I got home and my girlfriend was napping. I needed her phone to get his number, as I'd used her phone plenty of times before. But when I looked, I saw a long call history between them. That caught my attention since she never mentioned it. I checked the messages and calls and saw they started texting the day we went on the boat. It started friendly, with my dad saying I was lucky to have her, and it spiraled from there. So things started getting super weird when my dad began flirting with my girlfriend. He kept telling her how beautiful she was and hinted that if I didn't treat her well, he might just have to step in. It was so awkward, especially knowing he's married with kids. My girlfriend, being who she is, played along and said she'd be down with that. Their messages quickly became very suggestive, always dancing around the idea of sleeping together, but never outright saying it. Then things took a turn. My dad sent her a nude photo, saying her new Instagram pic turned him on. She replied, saying she was glad it did, and then sent him some of her own pictures. There were videos, audios, and a bunch of pictures going back and forth. I clicked on one of his videos, and it was him talking all dirty about what he wanted to do to her. You could even hear kids running around in the background. Through their messages, it was clear they hadn't slept together yet, but were planning to sneak away to his boat soon. Before my girlfriend woke up, I put her phone back and acted like I hadn't seen anything. But inside, I was crushed. My dad knew about me my whole life, but always ignored me, and now, when I finally reached out, he hit on my girlfriend. And my girlfriend knew how much meeting him meant to me, yet she decided to sleep with him. I felt so betrayed by both of them. I decided I wanted them to suffer for what they did. We had a dinner planned in a week, so I sucked it up and pretended everything was fine until then. On the dinner day, I kept my cool and got through the meal without flipping out. I spent time chatting with my stepmom, and honestly, I felt bad for her. If my dad was flirting with my girlfriend so quickly, I wouldn't be surprised if he'd had other affairs. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie. My dad said he had stuff to do on the boat and excused himself. About 15 minutes in, my girlfriend said she got a phone call, though I didn't see her phone light up. She used it as an excuse to go meet my dad. After a few minutes, I told my stepmom it was weird that she was still gone. All the kids had fallen asleep, so we could look for her without causing a scene. We checked the porch, but she wasn't there. So my stepmom suggested we go ask my dad. As soon as we got to the boat, we could hear obvious sex noises. My stepmom shouted my dad's name, and everything went quiet. He came to the door and acted like we were disturbing him, saying he was rearranging furniture. I almost laughed. I asked if my girlfriend was with him, and he called it ridiculous. I pushed past him and found her trying to get dressed quietly. All hell broke loose, with everyone arguing. Even though I kinda knew what we'd find, my reaction was pure anger and hurt. My stepmom kicked my dad out that night, and I packed my stuff and left our apartment. A few weeks later, I found out my dad had moved in with my ex-girlfriend, and then she got pregnant. My dad tried to deny it and even wanted her to get an abortion, but she didn't want to. I told my stepmom, and she thanked me for the heads up and assured me she was done with my dad. All our mutual friends couldn't believe what my ex-girlfriend did. They thought she was heartless for sleeping with someone so close. See to me, and many stopped talking to her. She ended up having my dad's child, but he wasn't involved. He got divorced, had to pay child support and alimony to his ex-wife, and because of the DNA test, he also had to pay child support for the new baby. I highly doubt he's keeping much of his paycheck nowadays.